and welcome to the very first edition of RRD Go Live. That's the RRD Go Creative. I want to call it a podcast. It's kind of a combination podcast, informal, informative session with some very, very interesting people. To kick off today, I have with me Dr. Rolando Zubiran, all the way from Mexico. Rolando is the head of our Web3 and Metaverse business. Rolando, welcome to today's program.
Thank you very much, Amar. It's a pleasure, and it's a pleasure to be here and be able to share with you a little bit what I think would be a very open conversation, going back and forth on what's this new and exciting ecosystem called the Web3 and the Metaverse, no?
Exactly. And so you've actually given yourself your perfect segue, right? So let me start off by asking you to break down all the hype, Rolando. Everyone's talking about the metaverse. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot being spoken about. So I'm looking to you for all of us and for anyone who's watching to break it down. What is the metaverse? What does it mean? And most importantly, why is it exciting?
So, I mean, there's a lot of hype behind the word, and even though all words are made up, it's important to understand a little bit the etymology of where this comes from. I want the audience and everybody who's listening to this or viewing this to just try to simplify their understanding of the metaverse and see it as a spatial representation of the internet. That's just about it. See it as a new space that the internet and technology is providing for people to be able to actually interact. So if you start actually seeing the metaverse more than this complex ecosystem of digital economies and development, and you just see it as a physical representation or a spatial representation of the internet, then it becomes much more clearer, right? Because then, Amar, you can start seeing, well, if this is just another space that's extended to what it usually had in the web, and in the web, you used to communicate and just first you used to read information. Now, in a Web 1 traditional ecosystem, you used to consume information, and the websites were not very interactive. No, you just consumed whatever they gave you, and you had the capacity to actually navigate them, scroll through them, and your interaction was pretty much one-sided. Then, as we evolved into Internet 2 or Web 2, interaction started to happen. No, that's a natural process of evolution, and people were able to interact with the internet, and they were actually able to create new experiences, and then from there they were actually able to derive value. And that's the beauty of Web 2. No, it's the birth of internet as we now know it, this modern internet where you can actually transact, you can interact, you can have conversations with somebody. The interaction is not one-sided. You can actually now go into the internet and you can actually, in a layer 2, you can actually use this technology to provide goods and services. Now I want you to think of the new stage where now it's immersive. Now you can have a use of more than your actual, than one or two senses. You can actually start creating new experiences, but in an immersive fashion. We go into practical examples and we go into companies that are actually doing cool stuff in the metaverse, then feelings become important and senses become important. If I were to tell you that Coca-Cola launched a new flavor in the metaverse, it would seem at first complex to understand how they could launch a new flavor. And their flavor is a digital flavor, which is the Coca-Cola Zero Bite. And now in the metaverse, you'll be able to experience a new flavor of Coca-Cola. And people might ask, well, how can you actually experience a flavor in a digital ecosystem? Well, this is the entire play of trying to actually imagine what it would feel like. Imagine what it would taste like. And you can actually start ascribing properties that you could not do if you could not actually see the product and you can actually interact with the product. And I think it's a great, great aspect for marketing and for companies to actually start playing with those concepts of visualizing this space as a new way to immerse yourself in this great platform of communications, no?
Breaking it down a little bit for anyone who's watching or listening, the metaverse is a space. So that's the spatial web. And that's what we're hearing so much about. and that's a place where you can go to have an immersive experience, to visualize beyond what's in the two-dimensional interface that we're used to, and see what it could be like in more than one dimension. Would that be a fair summary?
I think that's spot on. It's important to establish, however, Amar, that there is no clear definition of what the metaverse is. There's no consensus on what it is. It's actually pliable, and it's a transformational effort, and that's part of what makes it so attractive, but also somewhat complex to understand. To the most attractive parts, Amar, I think, of the metaverse. The metaverse, it is a space. It uses the web. It uses technology, but it creates so much more, right? Because it allows you to actually envision how to create new economies and how to disrupt markets and how to extract value from that interaction. And that's where it becomes a very, very attractive place. And I would dare to say, and this is where I come in and I put my 2 cents, I truly believe we are amidst a crossing of a new technological revolution. And like many other revolutions that have preceded us, revolutions come with changes that can be actually very disruptive in the way they create economies, in the way they disrupt ecosystems, and in the way they change social interaction. So I think we are actually entering that phase.